up? Welcome to Appleyard Motorcycles in Keighley. Welcome to another bike review, and today the much heralded, much awaited Royal Enfield Classic 650. Let's take this bike out and see what it's all about. In the meantime, get yourself up or down to Appleyard Motorcycles in Keighley. Fantastic dealership here, part of the MotoGP franchise. Extensive new and used stock. Get yourself up to Appleyards in Keighley. Okay, let's climb aboard, see what all the fuss is about. Right, here she is then, the Royal Enfield Classic 650, looking resplendent there in that maroon and cream colour, I think you'd call it, or ivory colour. Beautiful looking thing, absolute work of art if nothing else at this point. Fit and finish, yet again another step up from previous incarnations, and very nice to see indeed. So probably the most heralded, the most talked about, the most anticipated bike in the entire Royal Enfield range. This from my own memory, this bike's been talked about for 3 or 4 years already, with endless speculation about when it would actually break cover, spy shots and rumours and all the rest of it. Well, here it is in the flesh, Royal Enfield Classic 650, and of course I'm very familiar with this engine, having had the Interceptor 650 and the Super Meteor 650, and having ridden all the other motorcycles from Royal Enfield sporting this here 650 parallel twin. So let's climb aboard, eh? Ooh, feels nice. Right, here we go. Yep, no mistaking the sound of that there parallel twin. Right, let's see how we get on, eh? Hey. So we'll see what she's like in a bit of traffic. I'm not expecting any surprises. Thank you, sir. Or madam. Hey. Yeah, feels lovely. Yeah, I'm not expecting too many surprises from this engine. It's a well-established, pretty bomb-proof engine, this, hugely over-engineered, well capable of dealing with additional capacity. There is, or there has been for some time, a kit that you can get to up-rate the engine to 850cc. So yeah, hugely over-engineered. And the only concern I expressed initially about this here bike was the fact that when I had my Super Meteor with the same engine, I just got the impression that that bike was just a little bit too heavy for this engine. The Super Meteor being pretty much the same weight as this, the Classic 650, I was initially a little bit concerned that I might sort of get the same impression, but that was a degree of speculation based on recorded figures, a bit of deductive reasoning, not having read the bike. Well, now I'm on the bikes. Mine is the first backside upon this bike's brand spanking new. I would have reviewed it a good bit earlier, and the reason I haven't reviewed it until now is this bike, understandably, has been waiting for a 25 plate to be registered on the 1st of March as a 2025 registered bike. So this here bike's got a 25 plate on it, and I'm the first to ride it. Thank you, Appleyards. Very smooth, feels a bit more refined than the Interceptor, unless my memory's playing tricks with me. But anyway, as you can see, very, very similar instrumentation to the Classic 350, but with the addition of the Tripper navigation as standard. So let's see if what I've read about the tweaks to the mapping and the gearing of this engine on the Classic 650, let's see if they can allay my earlier concerns about how urgent and eager this bike at 240 odd kilos would feel with this engine. So far so good, but we ain't giving it no thrape yet. Of course, I have no intention of being disrespectful by arriving the pants off this thing. It may be a demonstrator, but at some point somebody will inherit this as their bike, and I have no intention of being the person that ragged it simply because it wasn't mine. But I think even with a measured degree of spirited riding, I'll be able to tell you whether or not this engine can give you any thrills in a bike as heavy as this. Hard to believe it, but it's true. This bike weighs the same as a BMW GS. Hey! But it oozes quality. Lots of proper metal parts on this here bike. Right, there we go, a bit of a hairpin there. Let's see how we get on. Right, okay then, so let's wind her on a bit, see what she feels like. Nice to see a gear position indicator on this bike. 6-speed box, of course. Yeah, actually. And I'm bearing in this bike is, bearing in mind, not remotely running yet, and it is noticeably more responsive than my Super Meteor was. Very, very comfortable riding position. Certainly benefits from these wider bars than the 350. Right, nobody behind. Let's see what the brakes are like. Back brake. Oh, pretty good. ABS straight in there, pretty good, the back brake. Really keen. And front brake. Yeah, pretty good too. The brakes are excellent. But as back brakes go, hey, I think that's the first time that I've reviewed a bike and tested the back brake, not anticipating it to have very much bite, as many don't, only for it to grab on and the ABS to click in very briefly. So full marks for the brakes on this here bike. Of course, you've got to admire Royal Enfield, haven't you, for the continued evolution of their models. They just seem to get it right every time. I mean, I think the only exception to that of a bike which to my mind doesn't seem to have a niche, but at the same time doesn't seem to have universal qualities, is the Shotgun 650. I get the Interceptor Roadster, the first bike really to break cover with this engine. I get the Continental GT as a calf racer. I get the Super Meteor 650 as a midweight cruiser. And I absolutely get this as a proper vintage retro homage to British motorcycles of the 50s and 60s. I don't quite get the Shotgun, but some people love it. But this, I tell you what, if the bikes were on a catwalk, all the Royal Enfield 650s, if they were on a catwalk, this would win. For me, this would win. For looks. Quite a firm seat, but over distance, that's a good thing. Better for you. And of course this bike available in a number of colours. They've all got fancy names, colours out there, but I can't remember all of them. But there's this one, what I would call maroon and cream. There is a sort of teal, all teal blue one, which looks nice, a proper period colour, that one. And there's a a black and chrome one. There might be another blue one as well, I'm not sure, but there is a chrome edition. So for me it'd be between this and the chrome one. I mean, initially when I first saw the bikes in photographs I thought, ooh, that teal bluey greeny coloured one, that's such an iconic colour from the 50s and 60s that would be the one for me. But I've yet to see that in the flesh, but actually now I've seen this one, I think it'd be this or the chrome model for me. Yeah, all day comfortable, absolutely all day comfortable. What a thing. Hey, what a thing of beauty. So we'll see how we get on with the fueling. Back there in Keighley, as we just came out of Appleyards at those temporary lights and did a bit of lane splitting. Felt absolutely fine. But we'll just check it here. As I said earlier, I'm not anticipating any surprises or unforeseen characteristics whatsoever. So here we are then, right where this bike belongs, out in the British countryside, the English countryside, the Yorkshire countryside. And right now, riding a bike like this, on roads like this, in England, is, as I've said before, it's a bit of a pastiche, a vintage set piece, if you like. And who's this bike for? Anybody that loves to ride a work of art. And every time a new Royal Enfield comes my way, I look at it and I ride it and I think it's just another incremental progression over what went before. And given that what went before was perfectly good, that in itself pays testament to Royal Enfield's continuing journey when it comes to perfecting the fit and finish and the design of these here bikes. And if you ask me who this bike is for, over and above somebody that appreciates a piece of automotive art and has a nostalgic bent, he said, fighting the wind. I think I might be inclined to say that if you are one of those people really taken by the looks and design of the Royal Enfield Classic 350, but have not completely taken to that bike because of its 20 brake horsepower and its, fair to say, its limited capabilities out on the road. If that was the only thing that was putting you off a Classic 350 and you love the design, this is probably the bike for you. Hey, because it has all the beauty and balance of the way that the Classic 350 presents itself. And I know there will be those who disagree, and that's fair enough. But I think that these two bikes, the Classic 650 and the Classic 350, are similar enough in appearance to be able to legitimately say that this bike is effectively a more powerful Classic 350, and I know that that's something a lot of people have been hankering after. Now don't get me wrong, this here 47 brake horsepower 650 parallel twin A2 compliant engine, you're not going to be mixing it with the boy racers, but then that's not what this bike is about. This bike is about engaging not only with the ride but with the story, and the story is one rooted right back, even the late 1940s, and the parallel twin Royal Enfields that started to appear then. That's where this bike's DNA is, and that really ticks a lot of boxes for me. It's a beautiful thing, it's a lovely ride, but above all, it makes you feel pretty special. And I'm hooked on nostalgia, as many of you will know. And the more that a bike makes my nostalgic strings resonate, the more I will take to it. And it will be more about that overall riding experience than it will about any individual aspect of the bike. Its power, its performance, what it's like on fuel, what it's like on handling. It's more than that. As I've said many times, it's number one how it looks, and number two how it makes you feel. And for £6,500 for this bike, it makes you feel pretty special. And when you ride this bike, you make a statement. It's about individuality. It will do all the practical things as well. This bike be a consummate commuter, a terrific tourer, a great all-round bike if all you were seeking is a quality all-round package for £6,500. If that's all you were looking for, this bike would fulfill those expectations. But it gives you something else, this. It gives you a means of setting your mind in a way that allows you to engage with the riding experience through the British countryside, not just the British countryside, but that's where its heart lies, of course. But it allows you to frame your ride in that context. Here I am in the British countryside, the English countryside, the Yorkshire countryside, on a Royal Enfield, and you can convince yourself you're back in the heady days of the 1950s and 1960s when British industry was thriving, before we chucked it all away, of course. But yeah, I remember back then, 50s and 60s, when we were absolute paragons of the motorcycling industry, the motor car industry, and the aviation industry. You think back, some of the most iconic military jets ever made were British. English Electric Lightning, the Harrier, all of those. Yeah, when we really could be proud. But that's all gone, sadly. But this bike, notwithstanding that it's made in India, but this bike allows you just to claw a little bit of that back. And that is very, very difficult to quantify, but it just is. Plenty of usable power. I don't feel at all, even with this still relatively tight engine, I don't feel at all that I'm wanting for any more get up and go. I mean, the quoted top speed on this bike's 85 miles per hour, which is interesting because the Interceptor with the same engine is just over 100 miles an hour. But where are you going to do that? Where are you going to do either speed? Well, I suppose you could, but that's completely missing the point of this bike. Handles well, it's quite lazy on the turning. 19-inch front wheel, 18-inch rear. And there's nothing about the quality of the ride that would give cause for any sort of criticism. Shower suspension, top quality suspension. Yeah, very comfortable riding position as well to go with the comfort afforded by the suspension. Very neutral riding position, not foot forward like the Super Meteor, and not foot slightly backward as with the Continental GT, but super comfortable. Yeah, you do have to sort of hustle her on the bends, but that's exactly what you would expect. 243 kilograms of metal and rubber mainly. Yeah, I'm loving this. And for some reason, a little part of me didn't think I particularly would. That there's just something about these here Royal Enfields that get under your skin. Do I want one of these in my garage? Oh. Yes. But something else would have to go for two reasons. One, I haven't got room for 5 bikes. And two, I can't afford 5 bikes. Here we are, 60 mile an hour, stable as you like. Yeah, it'll be a very comfortable tourer all day long this. I'm sure at some point there will be some sort of luggage option. People have commented in the past that the bike looks unbalanced. From the original press release pictures, and I would have some sympathy with that take, but actually all the press pictures, if you recall, showed this bike with just a single seat configuration, but with the pillion seat on, it just seems to balance it out. Right, so here she is then, the long-awaited, much-anticipated, beautiful Royal Enfield Classic 650. What a beautiful, beautiful looking bike, to my mind. And those colours, between that and the chrome one, hey. But anyway, let's have a look at the bits and the bats, and we'll go through 1 or 2 numbers as well, but it's largely academic for the reasons that I've already alluded to. But front end, what we have here is a 19-inch spoked wheel up front, sporting Nilo high tyres. I think that's what that says. I've done a little bit of research. They're part of a big Indian conglomerate that make tyres for just about everything with wheels, and have a bit of a racing sporting legacy as well, so they should know what they're doing, shouldn't they? And they feel pretty good. So road's not the best at the moment, and these tyres feel absolutely fine. We have a 320mm single disc sporting a Royal Enfield branded 2-piston caliper, and perfectly adequate that front brake. If you want to stop in a real hurry, you're going to have to do the old school braking technique which I was brought up with, which is proportionately applying both front and rear brakes, because the rear brake is a cracker. 43mm forks by Showa, and metal mudguards, metal, just like the Classic 350. That's where your 243 kilos comes from. And yeah, very smart looking. Got the Royal Enfield logoed brace under the headlight there. Headlight, well, straight off the Super Meteor and Shotgun, really, that headlight, isn't it? LED, standard indicators, just like the Classic 350. These little side lights here, beautiful. Yeah, just look at the fit and finish there, it is superb. So the engine then that we're very familiar with, aren't we? The 648cc, I believe it is, double overhead cam, liquid and oil cooled parallel twin, puts out 46.8 brake horsepower, so it's A2 compliant, and puts out 38 pound-feet of torque. And the 47 brake horse basically comes in at 7,250 RPM peak, and the 38 pound-feet of torque comes in at just over 6,500 RPM. Plenty enough, in my humble opinion. You've got engine casings to polish, I'm afraid. Can be a bit of a bind, as I find with Norman the Classic 350. However, I don't think a blacked out approach would really suit this bike. It's not what it's about. So yeah, a very familiar engine there. Lovely side panels with the Classic 650 twin logo there, and the tank there with that signatory styled Royal Enfield. Superb. So obviously we have twin exhausts, 2-into-2, pea-shooter type, chromed, look exactly right for this bike. Absolutely cracking. Alright, so come at the back end, 18-inch wheel, spoked. We've got a 300mm disc, quite big for a back wheel, and again a twin pot caliper, and that's what gives it a really keen feel on the back brake. Great back brake on this here bike. Twin Showa shock absorbers, adjustable for preload only, and look at that there, chrome hub. That'll take some cleaning, wouldn't it? But it does look smart. 25 plate bike. Hey! Yeah, here we are, folks. We're in spring 2025 on the very latest offering from Royal Enfield. Fantastic. So we've got an 800mm seat height. And fuel tank, we've got 14.8 litres, call it 15 litres, with a claimed range of 195 miles. I'd be running to 150 miles to be on the safe side, but I'm sure you could squeeze a couple of hundred out of it, depending on how you ride, of course. So we come up to the handlebar end, nice wide handlebars. And yeah, that really adds to the feeling of confidence in the bends. Excellent mirrors. Might look better with bar end mirrors, not sure, to be fair. But that will be an option, obviously, for you. Now, the quite familiar switch gear, which is to be seen on the later Interceptors and the Super Meteor and the Shotgun and the Classic 350 for that matter. But here, chrome plated, lovely, metal and chrome plated. So on the left we have an adjustable for span clutch lever, obviously. Then we've got the headlight, dim, dip and pass. We've got the info button there, which cycles through the LCD, and horn, usual setup that you get with these here bikes. Okay, and on the right hand side we have obviously the kill switch and starter, hazard warning, and your adjustable for span brake lever. Fire up the bike, and on the LCD you'll see we do have a gear position indicator for this 6-speed box, very useful indeed. A clock at the bottom. At the old top we have our fuel gauge, and there you see the tripper navigation. Yeah, and look at this here. It's these little finishing touches that make the bike for me. Beautiful handlebar boss there with the Royal Enfield emblem therein. Nice Monza fuel cap. Quality feeling bit and kit. It's all about the fit and finish on this bike, folks. All about the fit and finish. It is excellent, and I just love the look of it. I love the look of this bike. Too much for my own good. Hey, I've been here before, haven't I? I wish this bike had been available when I bought the Super Meteor, because I've been straight into this. When I bought the Super Meteor, I wasn't 100% certain, and of course I ended up parting company with it not long thereafter. Simply, for the most part, because of the forward controls, but not so on this bike. That is a beautiful, beautiful looking machine. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Right, let's have a look at me seated upon this here bike. Right, so I am 6'1", 32 to 33 inch inseam, and as you can see, I'm flat-footed on this bike. 800mm seat height, quite wide betwixt the old thighs, quite wide, and but very, very comfortable nonetheless. So a really, really comfortable riding position. I've still got a slight bend at the knee there. Handlebars a little bit swept back, really comfortable indeed. This is my ideal sort of riding position. And up on the pegs, as you can see, quite a neutral position here, and yeah, all day comfortable. What a beautiful thing. All day comfortable. I know I'm starting to sound really effusive about this bike, but just occasionally a bike comes along and you just look at it and think, wow, that's a cracker. Yeah. What do you think? We've been waiting for this bike for a long time. I mean, people were talking about this bike being just around the corner, hey, way back in, God, seems like pre-pandemic times. So it's always been just around the corner, this bike, probably because as a business proposition for Royal Enfield, it seemed inevitable after the Classic 350 came out to employ the tried and trusted 650 parallel twin unit in a classically styled bike. And I mistakenly thought back then that if they did bring out a Classic 650, it would just be another Interceptor. An Interceptor by any other name, but it's not. Which just goes to show that the people at Royal Enfield, the design team there, got a lot more nous than I have.
But yeah, British design team, of course, and they've absolutely nailed it with this bike in terms of its looks. It just presents exactly as it should do. It's a pleasure to ride, it handles well, it's got enough railroad power, and it just makes you feel very, very special indeed. This is a bike for individuals. Beautiful. Aye, so if you want to ride this bike, get yourself to Appleyards in Keighley. This is the demonstrator, speak to them there, and they'll be happy to let you out on the Royal Enfield Classic 650. Oh, what a beauty.
Right, so there it was. Hey, my first ever ride on what I think will come to be one of the great Royal Enfield models. History will judge this bike kindly, just as it does its ancestors. Cracking job, Royal Enfield. It's a credit to you. So, all it remains for me to do now is to thank Appleyard Motorcycles in Keighley for loaning this bike to me for the day. Please go to Appleyards, take this demonstrator out, I think you'll love it. And thanks in particular to Kieran, to Mikey the sales manager, to Jason the service manager, and to Kevin the general manager, the boss. Thank you guys, much appreciated as ever. And if you like what I do on this channel, please can you give me a leg up by subscribing. Without subscribers I don't have a channel, so please, all I ask of you is if you would subscribe. All of my content is completely free of charge, and subscribing doesn't cost you anything, not now, not ever, so I really would appreciate just that small gesture to help me along with my content. Yeah, don't come much better, does it? Out here in this magnificent landscape on a Royal Enfield Classic 650. Hey! So until the next time, and in the meantime, ride safe, be kind, and I'll see thee.